At certain points in time, we decided to maybe not invest as much anymore in recruitment, and we always regretted it. Because 1 or 2 years later, you're always in trouble. For me, sales and having a sales culture is really key. They're basically doing a capital round, basically just to become a co-owner of the company, and it really it's magic.
Welcome to the Revenue Discussion Podcast. This podcast aims to inspire and educate the newest generation of revenue leaders on various subjects related to sales, marketing, revenue operations, and customer success. Every week, we invite an inspirational guest who is willing to share his or her insights, strategies, and tactics that has worked or is still working for him or her. Today, we invited Thomas Van Eeckhout to the show. If you don't know who he is, he's co-CEO at Easi, an IT company that provides cloud, security, and software solutions. But what makes the story of Easi so unique is their power to attract and keep very talented salespeople. To throw some stats here, they have been voted best place to work for 8 times in a row. They recruit more than 100 people per year, and in less than 3 years, they have gone from 250 to 450 employees. I hope you get inspired by their story. Enjoy the episode. Good afternoon, Thomas, and welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing very, very good, Dylan. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for making time on a Friday afternoon. We have to say it. Now, Thomas, you are the CEO of Easi, but for the people that don't know you or might not know Easi, can you maybe introduce yourself a bit? Give a little bit of background, where you come from, what you've done so far, and how that leads you to becoming now the CEO of Easi.
Okay, so let me maybe first start with giving a bit of context on Easi, who we are and what we do. So we're basically active in IT, and we have been doing that since the beginning. The company has been founded in 1999. I wasn't part of the founders. The company has been started by Salvatore Curabin and Christian Castelin, and we've been around for 23 years now. So quite a lot in terms or in the domain of IT. That is quite a mature company that we have by now. And we basically have quite a large set of activities. We, on the one hand, develop our own softwares, which we implement and which we introduce at our customers. And they're always actually focused on making our customers more efficient, more productive, and allow them to perform better. So that's on the software side. But we also manage and secure IT infrastructure, meaning that we have extensive hybrid cloud expertise. We have a lot of people dedicated on cybersecurity, which is obviously a very hot topic nowadays. And that basically is the set of activities that we have. It's a set of activities that we will always continue to we will always evolve in what we do. And what we basically, our strategy is really focused around a certain type of customer that we want to help and that we really are committed to bringing to the next level, which is basically upper mid-market customers. Customers going from 200 until 600 or 700 employees are really in our sweet spot. So what we do is we really want to be their partner of choice for everything related to IT, which basically explains why we have a large set of expertise and activities. So nowadays we have 450 employees. We will probably hit the 500 employee milestone before the end of this year.
All right.
It's actually an objective, a target that we launched for ourselves in 2019. So I became CEO in 2019 together with Jean-François.
Wow.
And I remember that we set ourselves that objective to be 500 in 2025. So we're 2022 now. So we're either very bad at fixing targets or we're very good in crushing targets. Either way, it's a nice nice journey.
How many people were you back then in 2019?
In 2019, 250, just under 250.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. So you doubled in just a couple
Yeah.
of 3 years.
Yeah.
That's
That's basically, yeah, that's the rate that we have since a couple of years now. Yeah.
very impressive. Yeah, but and exactly, it's clear that you guys have a clear focus on what you do provide well and should provide it too. But so if you, because of course the theme of the podcast is revenue discussion. So anything that has a link to the commercial sales revenue engine of companies is what our listeners love, right? And so I'm kind of curious when you look back at, because yeah, you joined Easi back in 2006, I think
Yeah.
as an account manager, if I'm not mistaken. So you have been in sales for quite a while now, and
Yeah.
now you even added a management component to it. But so if you look back at it, right, to the moment we are in now, what was for you like the most important aspect to really have that sustainable growth with Easi?
Mm. I think that we both will agree. I think most of the listeners will agree as well that for me, sales and having a sales culture is really key. A company that is not obsessed with its customers and with bringing value to those customers and with understanding dynamics in the market and being on the lookout on the next thing. And if you're not obsessed with those elements, then I think you can have a very decent, solid company. But it will always be a stress to generate growth. And that is the thing that Salvatore Curaba, back in the day, back in 99, understood very well. He came from sales as well, and he always, in a very healthy way, but he always stressed the importance of the sales department, and by doing so, stressed the importance of everybody focusing on bringing in new customers and making sure that those customers, once they're on board, that they stay on board. So that really is very much part of our DNA. It's also in our strategy. We have a very customer intimate approach. We're obsessed by our customers. We want to know what they do. We want to know where they think they can improve themselves, and we want to go all the way in order to satisfy them and make sure that we're doing the right thing for them.
I love that. There is a saying, and it's too bad I cannot quote the initial person that said that, but it was something like, sales is not everything, or sales is not the entire company, but the entire company should be sales, something like that. And that's probably something that you kind of share as well.
Yeah,
So
that
interesting.
yeah,
So
definitely.
so interesting that the sales culture being the most important aspect of Easy's growth, and I think we indeed a lot of people can agree with that. And I think it's especially interesting because I mean I've seen that Easy has been voted the best place to work 8 times in a row. So I mean there is something there that you definitely do pretty well, and I think also when it comes to sales, ultimately, I think the sales professional, the sales rep, the sales team really needs to perform well. And if they have a great place to work at, that will definitely help. But so I want to kind of deep dive in that because I think there are a lot of learnings that, a lot of that many sales leaders and even sales professionals willing, eventually to also grow companies might learn from you. When we talk best place to work, can you maybe just help us understand what does it actually mean, the best place to work? Of course, you don't work at best place to work yourself, but I think you have
No.
kind of a great idea, of great picture of how they operate. So what do they evaluate? How do they do it? And what was then for you ultimately the secret formula to it?
Okay, yeah. I think it's a contest which is being in Belgium managed by Vlerick and the Great Place to Work Institute. And in that evaluation, you have different categories. You have the large companies, and I think that is 500 employees and more. So we'll soon switch categories.
Oh yeah.
Then you have our category, which is between 250 and 500, and then you have the small ones under 250. And every the first 10 companies receive the label, but there's only one winner per category.
Okay.
So that's some background information. Now, how can you win? That's basically the question. So you always have two sides. You have a survey, which is a survey sent out by Vlerick to our employees, and where they basically have to score Easi or any other company on a list of elements. For me, that survey is the most important thing. And I'm very happy to see that I think we usually have over 99% of people claiming that Easi really is a great place to work.
Wow.
That for me is the one thing that I always look at when I receive the results, because it's for me the most important thing. So that's the survey, and then on the other hand side, you basically have some kind of file. We have a document that lists everything we do, and that really goes into detail of all the processes and the elements and all the initiatives that we have and all of those things. So that's basically the contest. Most companies, or I think for every company, it's a journey. You start somewhere and you hope to improve yourself, and for some companies that takes quite some time, and some companies never reach the top 10. Other companies just participate one time in order to have a feeling on where they might position themselves. I think we participated the first time in 2013 or 2014, and we were number one. No, we weren't number one. We were in the top 10 list.
Oh yeah.
So we were, I think, number 4 or 5, and then the year after we won, and we basically kept winning ever since then. But in the beginning, I remember when Salvatore went on stage in the first year we won. I guess it's 2014, and then. Obviously impressed by the fact that we won, and then you had the hostess of the evening of the award ceremony, who asked him, now, what is the secret behind it all, which is basically a very logical question. It's the one that you want me to answer as well. What's the secret? And he had this very fluffy, unclear answer. You have to have ambitions and projects, and then so actually after that first place and the first time that we won that first place, we really started an exercise, and we really started to reflect on what does differentiate us, and how come people really consider Easi to be a great place to work, and that it's at that moment that we made it into a model, and that and actually once you write down the things you do, it becomes easier to put them into practice in a very consistent way. It becomes easier to strengthen the model. It becomes easier to make it tangible, and to day after day improve what we are doing. So I really would like to advise people to think about that. What makes us unique? Because if in today's market you want to attract employees, you really need to do better than just announcing a ping pong table or a pool table in the kitchen, or drinks on Friday afternoon. That really isn't sufficient anymore. So that it's basically about creating an identity, a personality, and creating a story. If we want to, we hire a lot of people. We hired 120 people last year, I think, and we're at 80 or 90 people since the beginning of this year. So we have quite some people joining Easi. We need people to join Easi. So we need to stand out. We need to stand out. Whenever somebody takes the time to come to our office and to listen to our story, it has to be spot on. There is no second chance. So that story is really key in convincing people, and obviously that story needs to be authentic. You cannot you need to be sincere, obviously, towards your candidates.
You cannot act it. Yeah, you have to be. It still has to be authentic. Exactly. All right. So can you maybe share some couple of things that you then discovered at Easi that you are now implementing and visualizing and incorporating every day at Easi?
Yeah. So the first thing that really comes to mind when I talk about the model or about what we do is there's a difference between happiness at work, because that's actually what we strive for. We want to create a context where people can be happy. So there's a difference between happiness at work and well-being at work. Well-being is the Friday drinks, the pool table, the massage you can offer. It's the fruit basket in the kitchen. All of those things, and it is our responsibility as an employer to create a work environment which is as comfortable as possible. But people want more than just a comfortable work environment. And that's where the happiness at work comes in. And that's, you really need to connect with your people on another level if you want to reach that happiness at work. So that's a first side note I often make. A second side note is the fact that happiness at work will always be a joint responsibility. I, as a CEO, can only do as much as I can do. I can create a context, as I mentioned, where people, where we have processes and systems and all of those things that allow people to be happy, but they really need to take ownership over their own career and their own happiness. So that's basically two very important side notes. Now, what we do really isn't rocket science. It's actually quite simple. We have identified a couple of needs that every person has. Sales have those needs, and our developers or our staff, administration staff has those same needs. Even if in the practical implementation of what we do, there will always be differences. And I will maybe focus a bit on the sales part and what follows. But what we have identified those needs, and in everything we do, we make sure to respond to those needs. To give you an idea, I'm talking about recognition, which for me is one of the first and most important needs. Whenever
Definitely.
people push themselves to a next level, or even when they just show up and do a good job in the very early stage of their career, they need to feel that it is being noticed by leadership.
So does that
And
mean that you have some type of system in place where you indeed, get remembered that, or reminded that you indeed can recognize a colleague, or is that, just something that you repeat over and over again to the management team, to the colleagues around you, so that they, that becomes a habit within Easi?
Yeah, it's all of those things. And it's actually always like that. It's always a combination of different things, and we do a bit of this and a bit of that, and but it's maybe most importantly, it is about mindset. It really is about mindset. Whenever I walk in the Easi offices, I take time to discuss with people. I have I'm lucky to have a very good memory. So whenever I hear something, if a couple of days later I'm walking through the offices and I think about something that I heard, I will go and see the guy or girl, and I will go congratulate him or her. And that is mindset. I believe
cool.
that as a CEO and basically as leadership in general, what I really don't like is managers that are not present in the company. Managers that are stuck in Excel sheets in their office, and they never have time, and you always have to book a meeting, and it can never be just a small informal chat where you basically just explain how your weekend was, or how your holidays were, or what's happening.
They perform, they work, but they are not a contributor to the community.
Yeah. That's correct. And I believe that culture is crucial. And if we, as a CEO or any manager inside of our company, doesn't actively contribute to that culture, how can we expect that our people will do that? We need to take that first step, we need to make time.
You
It's
act as
just,
a role model.
yeah, really. And that is, now for me, it's very easy to do so because it's something that gives me a lot of energy, and doing deep dives in Excel is really something that doesn't give me any energy at all. So I appreciate that, and it really is something that I really love. But I think it has an impact on the company. Now, what we do, just to give you some some very clear examples, is within our leadership team, whenever we notice something extraordinary, we send a message to the entire leadership team, stating, hey guys, this week Dylan had a very challenging project. He really pushed his limits, and he went the extra mile for the customers. We received extraordinary feedback from the customers, so please take some time when you see Dylan to address that.
Oh,
The
wow.
fact that people feel that what they are doing is being noticed, and being noticed by people that are not their direct responsible. Because
That's a good one.
honestly, if your direct responsible isn't giving you recognition, go look for another job. But the power of people not directly involved, being aware of what happens, really is something that is very powerful, and it's a fun thing. I regularly call people into my office, and especially when they don't have a lot of experience, they're a bit stressed because they have to go see the CEO. But
See the principle.
but taking time to show that you're aware that, even if it has just been a couple of months inside of the company, but hey, Dylan, you really crushed your onboarding. It's really something that you can be proud of, and I'm really confident about the steps that you're going to take moving forward, and please continue to do so, because you really are an added value for our company, and I really believe that you're going to do amazing things. And by the way, Dylan, do you maybe have some friends that might be interested in Easi as well? Because if you have people that you would like to work with, come bring in your CV, and that's the way you can really impact the growth of the company. Those small discussions, that's 2 minutes of my time, and it is 5, 6, 7 weeks of energy for the person that you called into your office.
Wow, that's I love that example. It also, have you ever saw the I don't want to take a too direct comparison to marketing and sales, but sometimes how I look at, getting talents into a company is how you try to market your company. So you do some kind of marketing. You have the sales culture, you have that community, you have people talking about it. So you have that certain type of marketing, but then you also have that type of sales where, of course, you have to have X number amount of interviews, of first round interviews, second round interviews, right? It's kind of a pipeline, a funnel there. And there you also mentioned something as referral. So do you also sometimes look at a commercial lens, for that particularly, or is it just something
Yeah,
that
no, for me, talking about recruitment, we really went through a transition where we know that the thing that might potentially block us in our growth is recruitment. That's
Mm,
it's really crucial. And in the past 23 years, at certain points in time, we decided to maybe not invest as much anymore in recruitment, and we always regretted it. We always regretted it,
wow.
because 1 or 2 years later, you're always in trouble, because the people that will help us in 2 years' time need to be here now. We work almost exclusively with young graduates, people that are leaving school and that are going for their first job. So onboarding, investing, and getting people up to speed is something that is part of our DNA. It's what we do, but it takes some time. So
Hmm.
if whenever we drop, or whenever we have a drop in recruitment, we will always regret it afterwards. So today we have a team of 6 recruiters, and it will it still needs to grow, and we try to manage that team as a sales team. It's about
Well, if
KPIs. It's about
yeah, if you say that, when because currently we might be entering some type of crisis, or at least
Mhm.
some type of recession where economic situation might have a downturn. Do you then look at recruitment do you think it's maybe a good idea to double down on recruitment, because you might have even more talents than on the market? And if you say that it's never good to invest less in recruitment, do you think then maybe it's a good idea to double down on recruitment in times of crisis?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. At least in the context we have,
Hmm.
it's definitely a good idea.
Yeah,
If
project
our
needs to follow, of course.
Yeah, obviously, but we know that it always follows. If you have a decent sales team, if you have a culture where people are pushing towards the next level, and where we focus on customers and focus on the market, then there will always be business. Or at least in our context for the coming years, I think that there will always be business. So it will always make sense to hire people. I never came to the conclusion that I regretted a hire of a good colleague, somebody that has the right values and that has the right attitude will always be an asset to the
Hmm.
company.
I like that philosophy. Do you because when you explain this to me, and when we talk about sales culture, I also immediately think of building an ecosystem, a community of people sharing those, well, that same culture, but also those same values, same norms, same vision and philosophy on certain things. Of course, there still can be some differences, but when you look then at recruitment, how important is it also for you to really feel a match between the candidate and the company with Easi? How important is that? And does that also mean that you reject a lot of people because you see there a mismatch with the candidates?
Mhm. It's the most important thing that we have to try to understand when evaluating a candidate. It's the only thing. It's about attitude, values, culture. If those things are, if we have a fit on those levels, then the rest is the
So you
consequence.
say existing skill set and experience is actually not that important compared to that, at least.
Experience for me is worth nothing. Um, I have hired pizzaiolos, I have hired gym teachers, I have hired the last one, and really, guy is skyrocketing. It's impressive. He's
Wow.
really crushing all of the records. And before joining Easi, he managed a restaurant. He went bankrupt with his restaurant
Wow.
at the age of 25, 26. Guy has a small child, a wife at home, and came to
Yeah.
see us, and we were quite reluctant, and I think we gave him a no at a certain point in time, and he came back. He called us, no guys, you're making a mistake.
Don't take a no for an answer.
You really need to hire me. Okay, so if you do that, it's you can come. It's okay. And it's impressive.
Yeah, I
It
love that
really
story.
is impressive. So I almost never look to the to the
To the
studies
experience
or
and
those
yeah.
things. For me, it is about attitude. Yeah.
All right, love that, and I think that's actually a great tip, advice to many people, because I think there is a big pool of talents out there that is just not being touched because people look indeed to the experience or the type of studies they have studied and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and that's a missed opportunity. And you just summed up a couple of examples there, so super
Mhm.
interesting. Now I wanna talk about something else, because I know that Easy is also unique if I may say, in a way that you also offer a co-shareholdership to employees, right? Can you maybe explain a little bit about that?
We so if you start to understand our culture, then I think you will start to understand that this is not my company. It has never been Salvatore's company. It is our company. That is the way we manage it. That is the way we do what we do, basically. That is our DNA. Um, and so that means that in everything we do, we put the interest of the company before our own interest. And there's a lot of principles that basically come from that claim that it is our company. And one of those things, which is for us quite logical, is that then we have to own the company altogether. So that's basically for us. It just makes sense to have opened up the capital. So today we have 100 shareholders. 100 people that have invested in the company, so they have to invest. A lot of people go see their bank, they go see their parents-in-law, their
Wow.
uncles, their aunts. They're basically doing a capital round, basically for just to become a co-owner of the company. And it really it's magic. People are committed, loyal. Um, they feel
Yeah.
recognition as well because we give them the opportunity, and it is for everybody, from our staff teams to our consultants, our salespeople. Everybody has that possibility, but there are some conditions. You have to have a certain seniority, or you have to have a couple of years that you have to be inside
Hmm.
of the company. You have to have a
Makes sense.
certain a minimum level in the company, and that basically is the most important condition, is that you have to have a minimum score on our values. So we evaluate the values that we have inside of the company,
Wow.
and you have to have at least 80%. I want shareholders to be ambassadors. It's not about financial speculation. Whenever we feel that somebody is trying or is doing it because
Make a
he
profit
know he or
on,
she,
yeah.
yeah, that cannot be the goal. So working with the values as a condition allows us to really talk
That's
about what we need to talk about. Yeah.
that's interesting, because how do you then measure actually if there is a fit with the value? What type of question do you ask? Is it scenario based? Is it just yeah, how do you try to evaluate that?
So what we do in recruitment is we have a list of questions. We have it's multiple choice, and based on the answer, we try to evaluate the values a person has. It's not waterproof, but it is a beginning, and it allows us to have a discussion with a candidate about our values.
Hmm.
Whenever people are on board, we evaluate them on a yearly basis, and basically what the most important thing is the description we have made of those values. Because if I, for example, talk about responsibility as a value, then everybody will agree that being responsible is an important aspect. But
Mm.
responsibility within Easi is not the same thing as inside of another company. So really, what differentiates is the description. So we have that description. We have examples. We have good and bad examples, and that basically allows us to have that discussion, and to really have to not just have a discussion where you say, yeah, I always respect customers. Yeah, I hope so. But respecting your customers is about more than just being polite and doing what you
Hmm.
promised. It's also about, at a certain point in time, being assertive, or explaining a customer that his initial ID might not be the best ID in the long run. So we really make that very explicit. And by making that explicit, it makes it easier to evaluate those values whenever people are on board. And it's a discussion, but it allows us to be very clear, and to also explain to people where there might be a mismatch, to also explain why there might be a mismatch, and to
Mm.
also make that action plan regarding values, but also make that tangible.
Yeah,
I
and
really believe, Dylan, that a lot of companies have been or are wasting their time with the value exercise they did. really. If it's just putting 4, 5, 6 words onto your website, or then really you're wasting your time. You need to integrate your values in the important things, the important milestones in your company. We will never allow somebody to evolve who has a problem with our values. But we will never know that there really is a problem if we don't take the time to discuss that.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's definitely underestimated. I also think that, but that's a personal, I mean, opinion or idea of what's happening there. But I think that a lot of people think it's also kind of too fluffy,
Mhm.
the value and its cultural aspect. And I mean, fact that you guys are striving at it and that the results are just following is actually a great example of no,
Mm.
it is not only fluffy, it's also super important to manage it, to kill at it. And that's why I'm very happy to have you on the show actually to at least inspire those people that also try to you know
Yeah.
to make their best out of it.
But
Now,
I hate fluffy things.
yeah,
To be very clear, if it's fluffy, I really don't like it. So we make it tangible,
yeah,
and
it
I
doesn't
think
mean it has to
values
be
need
fluffy.
to
Yeah,
be. You
okay,
need to stay away from the fluffy things. Yeah.
okay, okay. Well, look, if people have questions about it, they know how to reach then. Now, you mentioned that 100 people now within Easy are shareholder of the company. That's 100 of 450 people, almost one out of four. Is that also some kind of a target then? Because I imagine that the more people are, are shareholder of the company, the more, loyalty, commitment, integrity, everything or all the values that you share are being there within the company. So that is that also some type of ambition or goal that you set up for yourself or for the company?
Yeah. We want to have as much shareholders as possible um, without settling for less when
Hmm,
talking
without
about the
compromising.
conditions
Yeah.
that I mentioned. Yeah, without compromising. So yeah. Obviously, we hire a lot of people. So maybe in the future, at a certain point in time, we will hire less people, and then that percentage will probably increase. Because for me, once you have 4 or 5 years of experience within Easy, I hope that 3 out of 4 people will join our shareholdership team.
Hmm.
It's not something that I have done an in-depth analysis on, but that is the ratio that I would like to have, and it's basically an ambition that I feel with a lot of people within our company. Now,
Hmm.
obviously, when there's so you have 450 people inside of the company. You have 100 shareholders. I always explain to our shareholders that I don't want them to feel better than the rest.
Hmm.
On the contrary, they are the ones that have the responsibility to push the company forward. They have the
Hmm.
responsibility to make sure that their colleagues are being as successful as possible in what they did. They should never feel better than somebody
Right.
else. And
Kill the
whenever
ego.
really, really, ego is one of the worst things in a company. So obviously you have that big team of shareholders, which are all committed, positive, loyal people. So people just want to join that team. It's really an ambition that a lot of people share, and yeah, which is very nice, obviously, for us. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I want to pick your brain on a thought I have, because you see that, statistically speaking, you see that millennials, or even in general now, people they work 2 years at a company and then they switch from company, and then they work
Mhm.
2 years there and then they switch again because God knows why at the end. But my feeling is that because they want something new, they want a new challenge, they want new experience, they want a new environment to work in, and that's maybe part of the millennial stereotypes. I don't know, but it's I have a feeling that with Easy you are fighting this because you want them to be there for the long run. And so, do you feel there's some kind of a battle with that, statistic that I just shared, or is it, or how do you see that also present within Easy?
Mm. It's not a battle we have, but you're right if you say that it's not something that I or that we agree with. But it all is linked to each other. So we we hire young graduates, people that have no experience. So it wouldn't make sense to have them on board for 6 months or for 1 year or even for 2 years. If that would be the strategy, then I would be very bad at economics. It doesn't make sense. So we invest in people. That's what we do. And we have a difficult time not investing in people, which explains why we don't hire a lot of senior profiles, because we want them to join that group of people that are learning and are basically at the beginning of their career. So that's the starting point. And once we do that, we give perspective. So everybody, or 99.5% of our employees, are engaged in some kind of an action plan, a trajectory, an evolution towards a new skill, a new level, starting to manage projects, starting to coach junior colleagues. And we're really moving in blocks of 6 months. And that's basically how we manage perspective, and how people can manage their careers. And obviously we have people that leave our company. Yeah, that happens, and it sucks when that happens. But the vast majority is in that dynamic of, okay, I'm going my first steps as a consultant, and I have the possibility to either evolve towards expertise and really go into the details of technology and of the technical part, or no, I have a basic knowledge of the technical part, and I want to evolve towards project management, people management, and all of those things. And basically that dynamic of evolution is what allows us to never hire managers externally. It's been now 13 years since we last hired a manager
Wow,
externally, and
that's impressive.
people find that amazing. But it is like that, and it is never a big step. Most of the companies, joining the management team is a very big step. It's something that and people often fail. So the people are scared. So it's almost, in a lot of companies, it's the safer choice to look for a manager at a
Right.
competitor or at another company. So, but at Easi, it's basically small steps. You start with coaching somebody in a functional context, and then you start little by little. You start to manage projects, and then you start to coach 2 people, and then 3 people, and then 4 people, and so by that time, we know for a fact that you will be successful as a manager. We know it. So, and whenever we start to test coaching, and we feel that it doesn't give you the energy it should give you, or the results aren't really there, small step back. There's no
Yeah,
problem.
it's
We
kind
have
of
a track with
doing an
expertise.
MVP. Yeah, it's
It's
like
really that. Yeah,
yeah.
but we have all of those principles. We just need to apply them in this context. Another example: every company that is actively thinking about marketing and sales has buyer personas. How many companies have employee personas?
Good
It,
question.
it, it's something you need to have. If every CEO I meet is explaining me that their biggest challenge is to find the right people, and I ask them the people they are looking for, they can't give me a decent answer. You need to know the stuff that your potential candidates are reading. You need to know where to find them online. You need to invest time. The market has changed. So in our context, it's not about finding the projects, it's about finding the people to deliver the projects. So we sometimes need to focus on the right things, and we need to apply the principles we have on the challenges we're facing. It's something that we find quite fun to do as well. Yeah.
I can imagine. Can imagine. Yeah, you have already shared so many learnings that you had along the way, so many lessons, so many best practices, tips and tricks. But if you have to, look back at, or if you have to give an advice to, the 20 years old self, what first tip, what big advice, golden advice would you give on a professional level, but maybe also on a personal level?
Mm. Maybe two things. The first one, and it's the importance of putting in the effort. And I think that nowadays in business in general, we maybe attach too much importance to the idea, an innovative app that will solve all of your problems. But if you have that idea and you don't have a decent organization, you don't work, you don't put in the effort you need, then your idea is worthless. So it's basic. Maybe it's not just putting in the effort, but it's the importance of how we do things. And I think Simon Sinek always talks about why, and that is very important. But for me, the why is where do we want to go? But the how is how will I get there?
And the
And how
do.
can I, yeah, and how will I actually really get there, and what resources do I need to get there, and how do I make sure that I'm not going towards a burnout within 6 months because it's all on my shoulders. So all of those things, that's really a very important aspect. So that's maybe the first tip. Second tip, in the end, it'll all be okay. It's and I'm somebody that at night I often think a lot, and basically uh, and typically this is scenarios, and what if that happens, and what if that customer does that, and I'm so all, and it's basically it's a waste of time. The world never stopped turning. It always continues. We always find a solution. We always find a solution.
That is true. That is
If
true.
we listen to the market, if we listen to our customers, if we are obsessed with the right things, then in the end, everything will be okay.
I think that's definitely a gold one. I've heard it before. I mean, of course, people mention it sometimes that everything will be okay. So I thought sometime to just write it on a post-it, put it somewhere on my desk so that I always see it. It's always
Yeah,
gonna be okay because sometimes you're being frustrated for actually stupid stuff.
yeah.
Maybe something that after a week you already forgotten about, and
Maybe
yeah.
one thing in the same context that I might add, and I don't know whose quote it is, but it is a quote that helps me a lot. It's quite simple. It's this too shall pass. So basically, it means that whenever you're facing a hard time, don't worry, this too shall pass. Whenever you're
Yeah.
facing excellent times and you're on top of your game, this too shall pass. And it allows me to stay humble when things are going good, and stay
Yeah.
positive when we're facing hard times.
It's in the same atmosphere, but still
Yeah,
it's different. It has a different meaning, and I like it indeed. Doesn't mean you're the king now. You will not perhaps be the king tomorrow. And actually,
no.
being the king is not a good word, but we
Yeah,
get
but
each
it's
other.
basically on top of your game, and
Exactly,
especially in sales, you can be
especially in sales.
top of the league in Q1 and Q2 having a very hard time. But hey,
But
this
this
too
too
shall
shall
pass.
pass. All right, I love it. Thomas, if people want to find out more about you or about Easi, where would
Mhm.
you send them to?
LinkedIn. Feel free to send me an invitation. Shoot
All
me a
right.
message, and I'll be more than happy to help.
Awesome. Now I have a very last question for you, a question that we asked all the guests we get on the show. So if Thomas was a brand, what would it stand for?
Um, I, I would say authenticity, maybe, because I really want to walk my talk, and whenever I say something, I don't just make sure to do it, but I also make sure that it becomes a process or a system, and that we really force ourselves to stick to it. And so maybe that is something that I would like to be associated with.
Yeah. No, I like it. I like it, and I'll take it.
Okay,
Well,
perfect.
thank you. Thank you so much, Thomas, for being on the show. And I wish you, of course, a lot of good luck with Easi.